Hundreds of California's independent fueling centers collapsed under a $2 million upgrade requirement, while simultaneously litigation shut down a proposed 32-pump Costco in Fresno that projected $15 million in yearly tax contributions and lower costs for countless families. The stated reasons involve ecological assessments and traffic analysis, but the chronology reveals intentional restriction. How did preventing both small operators and large-scale retailers become standard practice? And what's left when vacant lots multiply and fuel reaches $12 per gallon on unused Fresno land? Urban development officials designed something extraordinary for the area. A massive Costco building measuring 219,000 square feet was planned, roughly double what typical large retail outlets offered. The proposal included a fueling facility featuring 32 dispensers capable of serving countless vehicles daily. Standard facilities across the state typically run between 8 and 12 dispensers. The vision aimed to transform Fresno into a center for budget-friendly petroleum, complete with vehicle cleaning services, and a 47,000 square foot distribution center for rapid package delivery to meet the city's expanding e-commerce demands. Costco's strategy was straightforward and bold. Petroleum would be offered below cost, anywhere from 50 cents to a full dollar beneath neighborhood pricing, not for profit margins at the dispenser, but to attract shoppers inside. For countless homes, this represented genuine financial breathing room. Reduced pricing arrived during a period when petroleum expenses were rising throughout the state. Every tank refill could return an additional $10 or $20 to a household's budget, funds that would typically be allocated toward warehouse purchases like food, children's supplies, and basic home needs. Municipal financial experts calculated the figures and recognized an uncommon chance. The property's evaluation would jump from slightly above $1 million to approaching $100 million. This translated to a dramatic increase in land tax income, resources that could flow toward education, infrastructure maintenance, and public safety operations. Community administrators highlighted the cascading impacts, featuring a building period expected to inject $150 million into the regional economy, numerous labor union positions, and a lasting staff to operate the warehouse, fueling center, and shipping facility. Municipal records calculated the complete yearly economic advantage at beyond $55 million, a substantial gain for government accounts. For Fresno's working households, the benefit was more immediate. With petroleum consistently priced significantly beneath rivals, a family could conserve $500 to $1,000 annually. No trivial amount in a municipality where finances matter greatly. From the perspective of municipal authorities, the venture presented an unusual convergence: economic expansion, employment opportunities, and tangible relief for laboring households, all supported by a corporation with a 40-year presence in the area. The magnitude was enormous, and the advantages appeared to reach every section of the population. H. Hernand Riverside Coalition for Responsible Planning and Development initiated legal proceedings in May 2024, mere weeks following Fresno City Council's approval of the Costco venture. Their challenge contested the municipality's ecological assessment, claiming that the 47,000 square foot rapid delivery distribution center, referenced as the MDO, wasn't an authorized application beneath the property's commercial designation. Coalition attorney Dan Brannick emphasized the matter. The municipality had labeled the MDO as supplementary to retail operations, yet neglected to offer any proof it was secondary or connected with the primary warehouse. Rather, the judicial documentation revealed an independent industrial operation, creating statutory concerns. The ecological examination encountered sharper opposition. The municipality's ecological consequence document depended on a 2021 environmental strategy that had previously been rejected by a distinct judicial decision the prior summer. When the municipality announced the venture's carbon emissions below noteworthy, Judge Jonathan Skiles discovered no evidence supporting that assertion. The ecological consequence document, he noted in his 13-page ruling, had incorrectly depended on a rejected strategy and neglected to justify its environmental conclusions. The tribunal also recognized outstanding congestion and water management issues, though the critical strikes were designation and carbon emissions. Following 2 years of legal proceedings, the judgment came on July 17, 2025. Judge Jonathan Skiles released a writ of mandate, a directive carrying legal authority, canceling all venture permissions, and stopping any additional movement until the municipality finished a corrected, legally acceptable ecological assessment. Essentially, the complete Costco venture was paralyzed. The municipality could challenge or begin anew, yet time was limited. Costco's agreement on its West Shaw Avenue property concluded in September 2025. Without assurance of a swift resolution, the danger of losing a 40-year established business, along with the employment, revenue, and relief it provided, hung over municipal headquarters. Coalition representatives maintained their objective wasn't blockage, but adherence. "We simply want the municipality to respect regulations," Dan Brannock informed journalists, referencing the requirement for appropriate zoning determinations and a legitimate environmental evaluation. Costco's attorneys refused statements while municipal administrators rushed to preserve alternatives. Still, the writ wording offered minimal flexibility until the ecological assessment could endure judicial examination, the prospect of a massive Costco, and the assistance it brought to Fresno households was diminished to a collection of legal papers and an unused property. Throughout California, a separate emergency was developing. Away from the coverage about massive warehouses and judicial conflicts in communities from the Central Valley to the shoreline, numerous small family-operated fueling facilities confronted a cutoff that hardly any could manage to satisfy. Senate Bill 445 mandated every facility with single-walled buried containers to swap them with double-walled arrangements by January 1st, 2026. The expense approached $2 million per location. For most private proprietors, that figure was unattainable. Income levels at these facilities frequently remained around $50,000 annually, scarcely sufficient to maintain operations, much less assume enormous financing. Proprietors approached the state Rust Initiative, seeking assistance or reduced rate financing to help address the upgrade. However, the submission procedure extended for years. A Korean-American household who had operated a shell facility for 3 decades waited close to 24 months for an answer, only to discover that authorizations had frozen and builders were completely reserved through the cutoff. A Mexican pair with an ARCO facility submitted documents, covered soil examination costs, and observed as authorization evaluations extended into a subsequent year. An Indian household whose operation had transferred from grandfather to father to son encountered the identical barrier of administrative processes, postponements, rejections, and no obvious route ahead. By the beginning of 2026, the result was evident. Numerous facilities were marked and compelled to close, not due to leakage or infractions, but because the expense of meeting requirements and the state's own delayed assistance had rendered continuation unfeasible. Generations of labor, household resources, and neighborhood confidence disappeared nearly instantly, creating unused properties where community centers previously existed. Emergency vehicles in countryside Fresno currently journey up to 20 miles simply to refuel before addressing crises. With numerous private facilities closed, the final location in certain communities remains inactive, converting what was previously a 5-minute diversion into a 30-minute rush. Educational systems reduce transportation paths, and medical transport organizations plan their schedules around what remains of the petroleum map. The protection system weakens, not from catastrophe, but from a compliance cutoff and the gradual withdrawal of fundamental infrastructure. On December 31st, 2025, the Phillips 66 processing plant in Los Angeles closed its operations permanently, eliminating 139,000 barrels daily, roughly 8% of California's petroleum production. The shutdown concluded beyond 100 years of function, yet abandoned polluted land, PFAS substances, and a restoration strategy with unclear financing or schedule. Simultaneously, Valero arranged to dispose of $1.1 billion in state holdings, and Chevron relocated its central office to Texas. Each departure strengthened the stranglehold on production, focusing market influence in fewer organizations and elevating the danger of pricing control. In Fresno, motorists evaluate pricing displays. $5.29 per gallon at the closest operating facility, $4.39 per gallon if they travel to Clovis. For certain individuals, that requires a 30-mile complete journey, consuming up to 3 gallons simply to conserve 90 cents per gallon. The contradiction is difficult to overlook. Ecological legal actions and container requirements designed to decrease discharges currently compel thousands to journey farther, consuming additional petroleum and increasing neighborhood contamination. Experts cautioned that every shutdown, every processor withdrawal escalates the emergency. With production decreasing and no fresh volume permitted, pricing forecasts that previously appeared unrealistic, $8, $10, possibly $12 per gallon, no longer appear beyond possibility. For households, for emergency personnel, and laborers similarly, the arrangement itself is advancing toward the boundary. California currently confronts a situation where necessary petroleum infrastructure vanishes quicker than answers can develop. As decision makers intensify efforts, households and emergency personnel bear the burden at the dispenser. The expense isn't simply elevated petroleum, it represents a tomorrow where essential operations and economic accessibility slide increasingly beyond grasp. What are your thoughts?